Is it on now? Everybody get a bulletin? Well, let me just say that here's how I got to the peacock. The Hebrew letter that's associated with Tevet is I-N, and I-N, it's on your, see clearly. It's about seeing. It's about the eye. And so my family has a pet peacock. And so these feathers back here that we have for gifts are from my peacock, my family peacock. I mean, the real thing. And this peacock has been around for a couple of years, and he won't, they've tried to figure out, there's people who have peacocks down the road and they're not theirs, and all of that, and so anyway, so they have this peacock, so they shed their feathers, and so we picked them up, but I looked up the spiritual meaning, and Dr. Sherwood got one of those peacock feathers, and he said, "Did you get this from the Native American culture?" And I said, "Yeah, some of it." And so he has a real heart for Native America. But so the spiritual meaning of, and your gift is back there, so you can get, in this, that is a sign and a wonder, that is on a bird. I mean, we've got it everywhere. And these were all over Corey's yard. And we just went and picked them up. It's just amazing. So you can get a gift, and I'll tell you what they mean. But the spiritual meaning of a peacock feather means vision, which is I-N, wisdom, which is what we're headed into. 2022, as I've already studied 22, 2 is the number of wisdom, and we're going to double it for the things that are ahead. Peacock feather represents awareness, and it also represents resurrection, because the example is when it loses its feathers in the spring, they grow back by Christmas. So there is a resurrection of this beautiful eyed feather. So it represents resurrection. It also represents, get this, immortality and eternal life, because the skin is believed not to corrupt or decay ever after they die. They don't. So they're immortal. That's what that represents for you and I. We have an incorruptible seed that we have been born again by. We may leave this earth, but we will never die. It also means to conquer over evil. And of course, I love this part, that a peacock, and we know this from Corey's backyard, a peacock can eat a poisonous snake or a poisonous plant and never be harmed. I'm more than a conqueror. Greater is he that's within me than he that's in the world. We have conquered over all evil. That's what that represents. Deanne's got a bunch of these in her house. I've got a bunch of them in my house from Corey's house. And now you're going to get this, and you can just say, I'm more than a conqueror. Greater is he that's within me. Every time you look at that eye, that awareness, that vision, that redemption, that resurrection, that incorruptible seed that's in us is represented in the peacock feather. It also means all-seeing, all-knowing God. It's a name of God. It represents the presence of God. It is associated with the tree of life. This peacock is associated with the tree of life. When you look up peacock, there's only like 2 or 3 places mentioned in the Bible where there is a peacock, and it's mainly in 1 Kings, and it's when Solomon was sending out the ships, of which we have a ship. That's Dan's ship. We'll talk about that next week. That's profound. And So he sent out and he brought back, Solomon was very wealthy. He brought back gold, he brought back silver, he brought back ivory. And the last thing that it mentions is he brought back peacocks. What? Like they were in India or they were somewhere, I don't know. And so in the Strongs, when you look up peacock, it's associated with a shout for joy, be joyful, sing for joy. You are singing from triumph, not to triumph. So when you see your little feather, you're not going into victory. You are in victory, walking out of that into more victory. That's what that represents. That's what that's associated with. And then, Deanne, you will love this. Out of the spiritual meaning of peacock feathers, the pride of the peacock is the glory of God. Let me explain it like this. In the everyday nature of a peacock, when we see Pete, the peacock, he will just come right up to the sliding glass doors at Corey's and, peck or whatever. So, he's very, he's not afraid or anything like that. But when you just see him out there in the field or whatever, he just pretty much looks normal. But then, all of a sudden, and you don't even know why, because it's not, if you would kind of walk up on him, he would run away. So it's not like just all of a sudden it spreads its feathers. And it shows a beauty and a glory that has never been seen in its ordinary life. That's ahead for us. We have to live. We do have to live in this world, and we have to fix the shed. You know what I'm saying? Or we have to get the fireplace logs, or I got to get my tree cut down, or all of the ordinary, you have to take the kids to ball games, and we got to have our ordinary life. We're not saying anything about it. But even in the ordinariness of life, all of a sudden, just there is the beauty and the glory. So when we see our feather, we know that we're in joy, we're in triumph, and we're headed toward it, because remember, he's the same. So we can go back to things that happened in our past. We can go back with happiness and joy. Yes, we can look at our present with all of the interesting stuff, and we can be in happiness and joy. And because of that, we can look to the future, not with fear and dread and what bomb is going to happen next. We do it with happiness and joy. That's what we see. And then the Native Americans believe the reason that they would put these feathers in their head was because they felt like that there was a protection from negative energy. So we're just getting our peacock feathers all energized up with 528, and it is going to carry that energy, and don't mess with me right here. I become aware of the power of God. And a peacock feather also represents a celebration of life, a celebration of life, the power to overcome obstacles, and freedom from fear, which is a big one right now.